So happy Sunday everyone. So I'm pre-recording this video for the lab of SAD 105.1. So um, we'll be talking about, we'll be introducing rather on inquiry-based teaching and how we employ 7E lesson planning, applying inquiry. So um, in the inquiry-based teaching, there are changes to how we conventionally do the class kasi diba, we are accustomed to doing this arrangement. For example, the teacher feeds the students a concept and knowledge, and then after the class, the teacher simply give an assessment through quiz or multiple choice items, through essays, and then they try to ask the students what they have learned. So, kumbaga, ang maestra maghatag og knowledge, pagkahuman i-assess sa maestra unsa ang knowledge nga nakuha sa estudyante. But then in the inquiry, it is more grounded on a constructivist na learning theory in which we actually let the students take ownership of the knowledge, meaning they are the ones who are constantly on the process of creating the knowledge. Say, for example, if you are teaching, diba, we follow the K to 12, diba, naman tayo science curriculum guide. So, the learning competencies are already there, and then your task as a teacher is to achieve that learning competencies sa mga estudyante. But then times have changed because dili na tong excuse me, dili na tong gikadaktan nato na process in which the teacher tells us the concept again, and then at the end of the lesson or at the end of the class we are asked kung sa tong na-learn through assessment. So dili na nayon ana, but rather in the inquiry nga learning, we wanted the students to be an active builder of knowledge, meaning along the process of the learning experience sa imong activity nga gibuhat, ang estudyante gyud dapat mismo ang mag-build sa knowledge, meaning sila ang mo come up sa unsa man nga concept nga dapat nimo makuha sa klase. So nganana siya sa inquiry nga pamaagi na classroom. So makita nimo na constructivist gid siya nga approach. And then also in terms of the roles now, the teacher will serve as a facilitator and the students will be the active, as I've said, the active builder of knowledge. So ang trabaho ni teacher mag-facilitate. So as a facilitator also, it's very important nga naay scaffolding si teacher. Dili pwede na trabaho na bitan ako as a teacher is to facilitate. So ako na lang ni ihatag ni activity. Okay, class, buhaton ninyo ni ingon ni children, ingon ni na guide, so ingon yung buhaton, and then the teacher will left out of the classroom. No, rather, as a facilitator, the teacher must be on the learning process or in the learning experience of the students, guiding them along the way. Kasi dili pwede na kanang biyaan lang niya facilitator bitaw ko, okay, buhatan ninyo na siya, but rather we want the teacher to be actually an active facilitator, meaning along the way or along the learning experience, sa example gabuhat og activity ang imong estudyante, the teacher must be there to provide assistance if there are say clarification or problems, kasi it could be possible that the learning experience that you have planned, for example the activity that you have planned, is actually not going to progress in the way you think it will be. But pasabot ang imong gi-prepare nga lesson, dili siya mo dagan bitaw smoothly like imong plano mo nani ang mahitabo 5 minutes ani nga discussion kini nga part. But since we have a diverse learners with different learning styles and different intelligences, so mao na nga ang role dapat nato as a facilitator should be to provide scaffolding in the learning curve or in the learning process. So but pasabot, we are actually active in terms of looking into unsay nahitabo sa klase. So kung nag-provide tag activity, dapat naata dito lantaw na to asa dapit atong estudyante galisod ug unsa atong mabuhat para matabangan sila. But then take note, what we are going to do is to facilitate. We will not solve it for the students, but we will provide scaffold. Kumbaga kung kanang nag-building bitaw, di ba? Maghimo ka high-rise building, you will provide scaffold ka ng, it could be mga metals nga kana bitong matabang sa building while the building is still constructing, butang kag mga metals dira mag-agi-agi ang imong mga carpenters para dili mo mo-collapse ang structure kasi di pa kay siya strong. So yung sab ang analogy in terms of how we serve as a facilitator and provide scaffold for our learners. So I think we will have a thorough discussion more on inquiry-based teaching, but I have provided the basics of probably the sneak peek view of how we do inquiry. Now in this time, I will be presenting to you how you will make a lesson in your class using the 7E. So this is an example of our output that we have done in our in our master's class. But you can actually use this in your undergrad also. So in the 7E lesson, so naa siya 7 ka E, more na literal nga 7 ka E. So karon ato nang discussan each of the parts kasi this will be part of your kana sa inyong lab na activity. Maghimo sab mo og inyong nga 7E na lesson which is anchored on inquiry based na pagtudlo. So so let's go one by one with the E's. So pinakauna nga E class is illicit. So na siya caption na it's about access prior knowledge. So in the illicit part, kung ato na siyang ikumpara sa katong old bitaw na lesson planning, so I think this falls under, di ba, access prior knowledge. Kasi man na siya, di ba, marami siya review. So mag-review ni na part sa katong old na process na paghimo sa lesson plan pa katong old na marag format sa lesson plan. So we call this in 7E as the illicit. So sa illicit, it's about accessing prior knowledge. So meaning imong lantawon ang unsay naa na nila, existing na knowledge nila about anang concept, or not necessarily kanang example magtudlo ka sa grade elementary, no, magtudlo ka sa elementary o reproductive system man term, reproductive system sa flower. So ang imuhang posible nimo sa illicit access prior knowledge dili bot pasabot na since ang topic nimo is reproductive system sa flower, dili po pasabot na ang imong review or ga-elicit nimo nga part is on that topic. It could be possible na ang imong review is on related topic. For example, ang imong for as an example katulad ng reproductive system of a flower. So ang imuhang possibly nga nasa illicit, since this is again just a review, is on the parts of a flower, posible na siya. So dili necessary nga mao nimong topic mausab imong i-review, kundi related sa imuhang related sa imuhang topic. So sa illicit pwede ka maghimo, actually daghan kag pamaagi, it's up to the teachers diskarte sa niya na pag-review. So posible nga mag-review siya og using 4 picks 1 word, makatag 4 picks 1 word makatag siya picture. So unsa man ni relationship ani nga mga pictures class. So depende na nagyud sa teacher. So posible pwede sab nga mura siya dula. For example kani among gibuhat, ang among illicit nga part ani is mag true or false. So kung true ang statement, mo tindog ang estudyante, kung false, malingkod lang sila. Dayon dapat na time kay para mura bitaw siya naay kanang active involvement sa imong estudyante sa illicit nga part nga ma-excite sila. So the very challenge sa inyo ha because you are elementary teachers, so kinahanglan gyud ninyo na siya nga murag makuha gyud ang attention sa estudyante. So I think that is less nga challenge sa high school because they know how to compose themselves. Ang problema sa elementary kay buhaton gyud ang ilang silang gusto buhaton. So that is an additional challenge, and I know kaya ninyo nga challenge. So diri pa lang sa illicit daan, maghimo na gyud ka og kanang bitang strong na foundation in terms of review nga makuha ang attention sa mga estudyante. So mao na siya nahitabo siya mo daw. The next part, again, illicit is on review or accessing prior knowledge. So the next part will be engage. So kining engage nga part, from the word engage, so you have to get the students' minds focused on the topic. So meaning, unsa man siya, if you compare it with the old or to the traditional lesson planning, this is on the motivation. So you provide a motivation for the lesson. So diri sab sa engage, mao gyapon na siya, it's up to the teachers creativity, it's up to the teachers diskarte how to engage the students. So meaning ang diri sa engage is you do something na related sa imong lesson. For example, so kami among discussion, nakita niyo sa yung screen, ang among discussion ani class is about impulse and momentum. So to give you a short background, ang topic sa impulse and momentum, this has something to do why kana bitaw when you buy a stuff from Shopee or Lazada, tapos di ba mo travel man siya long distances, so it must be covered with a bubble wrap. So ang concept na class is impulse and momentum. So mausab na nga ang amo ang gibuhat anias, ang motivation is we actually let the students play. I think na implement naman ni sa grade 9, grade 8. So we let the students play. So high school na sila, but we let the students play. So ang hitabuan ni is egg toss na sila ka ng kabalo mas mga ng isa-isa o itlog bitadan sa doon ng itlog. So magkapalayo ang isa na po. So mao na siya ang motivation sa klase because we can actually insert ang amo mong gibuhatan ni mao na siya motivation. So we ask the students then unsa ilang observation naagi ang engagement class sa mga estudyante. So na estudyante nagipabuhat na mga nga case ipadula, and then the rest of the class is observing, and then we ask them unsa man yung na-observe. So ang ilang na-observe is para dili mabuak ang itlog, di ba, pag isa sa itlog pag salo nimo is dapat ana gentle ka ba pag ana nimo ra ipaana bitaw nimo siya ipaubos para dili nimo siya salon nga rag paana kay mabubuak man ang itlog, so dapat anaon nimo siya. So kana pa lang na observation sa estudyante makasulod na dayon ni nga okay at masabtan na to na class nga ingon ana ang gibuhat sa imuhang classmate. So kana siya nga principle ato na siya ang sabton in the context of physics nganong mabuak siya pag anaon pag catch o dili siya mabuak kung anaon nimo siya marag pahinayon nimo siya ba ang impact niya sa imong kamot is i-prolong nimo siya. So mao na siya. So in that way, we were able to engage the students kasi unang-una nagdula sila. So, of course, kanahan na sila magdula. So, malingaw sila. And secondly, through that experience, we actually kana bitong gi-arouse nimo ilang curiosity na unsa nang ano ka nga nato na siya nung ano nato siya pagsalo. So, mauna siya ang punto sa engage. You try to get the attention of your students to be focused on the lesson. So, dili lang na siya ingon ana nga pamagi, daghan pa, especially sa inyo you need to think yet of ways of engaging your students na makasulod yun mo. You build a rapport between the teacher and the students or the lesson and the students. So that is an additional challenge on your part. So the next part, di ba nata engage, which is review. We have the next, which engage, elicit, which is the review. And then the second, you have engage, which is giving motivation. The third is to explore. Now, if you can see on the screen, the explore is you provide students with a common experience. Now, this is the time in which you provide the activities to the students. So, common experience, meaning all of the students must experience the concept that you are trying to teach. So, there is a explore. This is now where, di ba, inquiry man ang atong pamahagi, inquiry based atong pagtulo. So, there is a explore, diba? We provide the students with a common experience, so that means that we provide them with an activity. So the very crucial thing on the explore na part is that the role of the teacher as a facilitator. So dapat tayo si teacher ng active si teacher naglantaw unsay mga kanang problema sa estudyante, unsay mga kanang naglisod sila kay para ang time mo nga ibutang lang 20 minutes activity is you were able to, or the students are able to arrive at a concept. Kalisod ka na imo lang pabayaan dira nga di sila makamove from one step to another because they have problems sa ilang conception sa task. So mao na siya nga the role then of the teacher as a facilitator must be kanang heightened, especially on the exploring part. But then again, ang sa exploring part dili pa wala pa involvement sa teacher in terms of discussion. He just simply allows the students to do the activity and provide guidance as much as needed. So, mo na siya sa explore. So, pagkaman sa explore is you go with explain. So, sa explain sub na part, ang nahitabo dali sa explain is, since this is a constructivist mode of, this is based on a constructivist theory, so, you wanted your students to be the builder of their knowledge. So there is a explain. diba, sa explore kay we provide them with an experience. That means we provide them with an activity. So they are working in groups or in pairs or whichever is better. So in the explain, so katong mga groups class, you allow them to present their output. Again, wala pa gyapon si teacher ni. Wala pa gyapon ka ng major nga involvement si teacher, gid bitaw nga si teacher gid ang ako. So ang estudyante gyapon, so they explain their concept, they explain their findings, and then because of course you provide also with questions, guide questions, and leading questions to the concept sa imuhang activity. So i-present na nila sa classroom. So pag so probably they will spend like 5 minutes or 10 minutes nga i-present nila lang output, and then so trabaho gyapon sa estudyante kani sa explain. Pagkahuman, di ba nantay elicit? So ito elicit is on review, engage is on giving motivation, engage. Pagkaman sa engage, so ito siya, we explore, meaning we provide the activity, and in explain, we let the students do explanation or sharing sa ilang insights, sa ilang conclusions sa ilang activity. Now, the next part, the fifth nga E, ani class is wait, what's this? Explore, explain. Explain na. Dali pa. Explore, explain na pa na isa. Elaborate. Okay. In the elaborate na part, the students now apply the information learned in the explain. So, diba, sa explain ako kay part si estudyante. So, i-share niya ang lesson. So, in the last part of the explain, that is now the time of the teacher to actually assess and to check whether their explanation that they have come up, meaning ang atong goal nga kanabitang ang atong goal nga concept nga i-develop sa estudyante is ila bang na-achieve. Meaning kung gusto nimo nga kabalo ang estudyante sa parts, functions sa reproductive system sa plants, imo i-assess diri sa last part sa explain nga sakto ba or na-arrive ba sa mga estudyante through that activity ang kini nga excuse me, kini nga goal. So that is now the involvement of the teacher. So sa last part sa explain, lang tawon ni teacher nga okay, very good, so sakto ang gi-present sa among classmate no, ang group 1 nga ani. So kung nagtaon na to ang presentation sa group 2, they arrive at a similar conclusion. So kana siya class, tinuod na siya ngayon ani. So dito na rin ka masulod, but just briefly lang yun, because again atong goal yun is ang magtrabaho yun, ang builder sa knowledge is your students. So in the elaborate nga part, di ba nanatay elicit, engage, explore, explain, and then the fifth is elaborate. Now in elaborate, the students apply the information learned and the explain. So meaning, kinsa man, mura siya follow up nga learning experience sa ato sa explain, di ba? Nag-explain man ng estudyante and then explain sa additional input. So sa elaborate is more like gamito nila ilang knowledge nga naa sa explain or na-learn sa explain, and then kana elaborate. Ilaha siyang gamiton sa new context but pasabot kung sa man na siya. Kung naka-learn sila sa among lesson, naka-learn sila man atong naka-learn sila sa impulse and momentum nga klase. So again, katura na siyang principle nga nung isulod og bubble wrap, ang balik kag TV, isulod na siya, naka-bubble wrap na siya or sa tawag na naka-foam na siya foam kay para ang cushion bitaw dili siya dali mo buak. So ang nahitabuan na mao na mong lesson. So ang among elaborate dayon ana is gitagaan na mo siya scenario nga related adto, tapos pa-explain na mo sa estudyante. So yun na sa elaborate. So more like extension, more putting the learned knowledge in a new context. So na-learn naman nila na concept. So what if ibutang mo to sa different nga situation but the same concept. So as a means of the students nga ma-broaden bitay lang understanding, makita nila nga okay nga ni dahil siya nga konsepto, dili lang siya true ani nga concept nga among gi-learn sa classroom, kun dili kini dahil po nga concept mao dahil po siya nga guiding principle nga da buhat momentum dahil po ni impose sa momentum dahil po siya. So mao na nahitabo sa elaborate. So basically extension siya sa imong explain. So ibutang lang nimo siya sa bag-o nga concept. Ibutang mo siya bag-o nga context but the same concept. So mao na siya nahitabo sa imong elaborate. Now sa evaluate, this is now the part kung sa traditional means of lesson planning. This is where we provide an assessment through quizzes, essays, oral quiz, ang inana. So, mo evaluate. So, it's about how will you know the students have learned the concept. So, this is an evaluation whether the learning experience that was provided on the explore, the explanation on the explain part, and the extension that you provided on the elaborate part actually meets the learning objective na dapat nimo ma-achieve. Kasi, di ba, the learning objective is already defined in the science curriculum of the DepEd. For the case of elementary, sa inyo, naana na siya dito ang mga learning objectives. So, katong mga learning objectives nimo, ang imong timaan sab is the learning objective nimo, example lang, learning objective nimo is on differentiate, di ba, ay kato lang nga example, di ba, kung ano to reproductive system. So, identify the function of the plants in terms of reproduction. Ibutang talang mauna siya ang atong learning objective. Ibutang talang ha example na dili na siya tinuod nga nakita na ko sa sa curriculum guide. I'm just making that up. So kana ang inyong timanan sab kung mag-evaluate gani mo, mubalik mo dapat sa inyong objective. Meaning ang inyong evaluation kung ang objective is to identify the parts of the plant and its function in reproduction, muna na po ang inyong quiz, ang content sa inyong quiz. Meaning, the content on your quiz is mga parts of plants, then i-relate nila sa role in reproduction. So, dili pwede, and it's not really a good practice in which you have an objective nga kini, blah, blah, blah. Tapos, pag-abot sa mga evaluation is wala nag-agree ang duha ba. The objective and the evaluation should agree. Kasi kining evaluation, iya manig lantawon kung na-achieve ba nimong objective. So, mao na nga, kining objective of evaluation, dapat mag-agree yun sila. So, you always go back to your objective in terms of evaluation. So, mao na siya, mao na ka nang mag-determine da yun sa klase sa evaluation nga mo fit. Dapat okay na ba mo multiple choice ang imong evaluation or kung kuan ba ka ang evaluation ba dapat ani based sa objective is pwede ra ba ni multiple choice or it could be better nga ang evaluation ani should be done through moving exam or demonstration ba dapat sa estudyante. So mao na siya nga ang imong evaluation always yun mo i-anchor sa imong objective. Dapat tumpak yun ba mag-agree sila ba kung sa imong objective ingon ana imong evaluation dapat. Okay, so mo-address dapat ang imong evaluation sa objective. Okay, so in our case we use multiple choice lang multiple choice. And then the last part is the extend. So kung sa conventional na pamaagi, this is probably the part where we provide an assignment to the students. So sa extend, we want to deepen conceptual understanding through use in a new context. So meaning they have learned everything sa klase through, diba, nag-provide mga common learning experience through explore and then explain and then elaborate. Now in the part, then evaluate. In the part of the extend is you provide, again, you want a deeper conceptual understanding and hence you provide a new context sa experience. So aning among example, so aside from the activities and scenarios presented, you cite other example of impulse in everyday life. So you see, there is an experience in the classroom, meaning naka-activity sa classroom, but then in the extended part, you wanted your students to see the application of that concept outside the classroom, meaning another context na siya. So mo na nahitabo sa extend. So it could be that you provide an assignment. So, maguna-una tahag lesson sa elementary. So, siguro ko kanang skeletal system, dumduman ako eh. Kanang skeletal system, then kanang kitang lihok sa mga joints, mga nana. So, siguro naman sa elementary. So, posible nga sa extent ninyo na is, di ba, discuss na ninyo sa klase, manimaw na yung goal, makabalaan ninyo ang functions and marag lihok sa kanang mga joints mo na siya, joints, tendons mo yun anak sa yung kamot. So, mas kabalo man gid mo anak kay elementary man ninyo specialization. So, it could be possible in the extent na uh, ang imo buhaton is mo anak ka nga okay kanang since we have discussed already the parts, the functions, and how the skeletal system moves. So your task is to look for another species, probably a cat, a dog, or sa makita ninyo nga naglihok, and then you try to evaluate kung unsay kalainan nila sa ato ang skeletal system o sa ilaa. So, posible na siya pwede nga na dahil mana pod mo na lantaw ninyo nga the same ra ba ang function sa kamot nila. So, the same ra ba sab sa ato ang function sa tiil, the same ra ba nga movement. So, na it's up to the teacher na again, it's up to the teacher nga unsay na learn nila sa classroom is pangitaan na tog avenue ba nga sa gawas paguli nila sa balay maka-think of sila og ways nga i-relate sa ilang classroom nga experience. So, yun ana sa extend. So, it's like giving an assignment to the student. So, the extend nga part, one thing na dapat i-notice, the extend na part, kasi usually of our practice kay, ang assignment na to kay, okay, you read this kwan ha, you read this kwan, you read this topic about yun ana. But then, in the 7E framework or 7E model, the extend is actually an extension of the lesson good, meaning is if kini mo learning objectives sa imong extend, it must be tumpak to the learning objectives still. Dili ka mo himo og extend nga leading to other nga class, other na tawag na other nga um, topic. Gawas na lang siguro og related jud kay ang topic. So, hinano lang siya. I think that would be all, and the your activity for this laboratory will be you are going to do a lesson. You are going to do a 7E lesson plan that is anchored on an inquiry-based nga pagtudlo, and then um, probably that will be you will be working on that for the groups, diba? Nag-group naman po ninyo based sa laptop o may wifi. So, you will be working in groups. So, it's up to you how you will do your communication. So, you either call each other, you either chat, kung sa pamimita mo pamaagi lang yun na maka-collaborate mo. So, I know it's hard na maka-collaborate given the circumstances and the state of our internet connectivity. But I believe you will find ways makikita pamaagi. Probably makikita yun pamaagi. So, you will be working that for 1 week. So, this video will be uploaded tomorrow. And then next week, Monday, I am expecting na naa na tayo output aning klase. So don't worry because I will try to adjust kasi didungan mo gud yung labo black. I will try to adjust the activities sa lecture. So siguro posible nga akong gamayan ng activities sa lecture. So i-cover na to important na parts kay kuan para makahatag pud mo dako nga time sa lab. Okay? So I think that would be all. So enjoy your week. So this is a pre-recorded video. I'm recording this on Sunday. I'll be posting it tomorrow. So thank you so much. Keep safe. Domo arigato everyone.